The gun felt cold against Monique's temple, but all she could think about was Zara's asthma inhaler sitting on their kitchen counter 3 miles away. Her daughter would wake up in 2 hours, reach for it with small, desperate hands, and find her mother gone. "Where is he?" the man hissed in her ear, his breath reeking of cigarettes and rage. Monique's eyes found In-sung across the warehouse, bleeding, restrained, his dark gaze locked on hers with an intensity that made her forget the weapon pressed to her skull. Even now, beaten and bound, he radiated the same commanding presence that had first terrified her 3 months ago in that restaurant. "I don't know what you're talking about," she whispered, her voice steadier than her racing heart. The man laughed. "The Ice King finally found something he cares about. A waitress and her little girl. How touching." In-sung's jaw clenched, a muscle twitching beneath the bruise blooming across his cheekbone. "Touch her," he said, each word dropping like stones into still water, "and I will end your entire bloodline." This wasn't how their story was supposed to go. 3 months ago, Monique Davis had been invisible, just another exhausted black woman serving the rich and powerful while her own world crumbled. 3 months ago, In-sung Nam had been untouchable, the ruthless Korean Mafia boss who felt nothing, needed no one. But then he'd noticed her tears, and everything changed. 6 weeks earlier, the smile hurt. Monique had perfected the art of smiling through pain, a survival skill she'd mastered over 28 years of life and 2 years of single motherhood. Tonight, the smile felt like glass cutting into her cheeks as she navigated between tables at Aurelius, one of Chicago's most exclusive restaurants on the Gold Coast. "More wine, ma'am?" She kept her voice light, professional, even as her feet screamed in her worn heels, and her mind calculated whether she could afford both Zara's inhaler refill and the overdue electric bill. The wealthy white woman barely glanced at her, waving a dismissive hand. Monique poured, smiled, and moved on. Table 12 needed attention, a birthday party for someone's spoiled daughter. Table 7 wanted their check. Table 15. She froze. Table 15 had just been seated, and the entire restaurant's atmosphere had shifted. Servers moved differently, more carefully. Even Marco, their manager, had straightened his tie and appeared tableside with unusual deference. The man at table 15 sat with the stillness of a predator. Korean, mid-30s, wearing a black suit that probably cost more than Monique made in 6 months. His dark hair was styled perfectly, his features sharp and aristocratic, but it was his eyes that made Monique's breath catch, black, intense, and utterly cold. 2 men flanked him, clearly bodyguards despite their expensive clothes. This wasn't just wealth, this was power. "Monique." Marco appeared at her elbow, his voice tight. "Table 15, VIP service, understand?" She understood. Whatever this man was, he made Marco nervous. That alone told her everything. Monique grabbed the water pitcher and approached table 15, forcing her smile back into place. Her reflection in the window behind them caught her eye, a black woman in a simple black uniform. Natural hair pulled into a neat bun, dark skin glowing under the restaurant's warm lighting. She looked composed, professional. She looked nothing like the terrified mother who'd sat in the hospital waiting room that morning while Zara struggled to breathe. "Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Aurelius." Her voice didn't shake. Years of code switching, of existing in white spaces, of surviving. It all came together in that professional tone. "May I start you with still or sparkling water?" "Still," one of the bodyguards answered. The man in the center, the one who radiated authority, said nothing. He was reading the menu, but Monique had the unsettling feeling he was aware of everything. Her presence, her movements, the slight tremor in her hand as she poured water into crystal glasses. She set down the pitcher. "Your server will be you." His voice was deep, lightly accented, and left no room for argument. Monique blinked. "Sir, I'm actually scheduled for the other section. You." He looked up, and the full force of those black eyes hit her. There was something calculating in his gaze, something that saw too much. Of course. She pulled out her order pad, professional smile firmly in place. "What can I get you this evening?" They ordered. Expensive cuts of meat, rare wines, dishes that cost more than her weekly grocery budget. Monique wrote everything down, her handwriting steady despite the exhaustion creeping through her bones. As she turned to leave, his voice stopped her. "What's your name?" "Monique, sir." "Monique." He said it like he was testing the weight of it. "You've been crying." Her blood turned to ice. The smile never wavered. "I'm fine, sir. Thank you for your concern. Your order will be right out." She walked away, feeling those dark eyes on her back, her heart hammering against her ribs. How had he noticed? She'd been so careful. The bathroom break an hour ago, splashing cold water on her face, using eye drops to clear the redness. She'd checked her reflection 3 times. But somehow this man had seen through her mask in seconds. The rest of the dinner service passed in a blur. Monique brought courses, refilled drinks, maintained her smile. The man, she'd heard the bodyguards call him Mr. Nam, barely spoke, but she felt his attention on her throughout the meal. It wasn't lecherous, she'd dealt with plenty of that. This was different. Assessing. Like he was solving a puzzle she hadn't realized she'd presented. At table 7, a drunk businessman grabbed her wrist as she set down his check. "Hey, sweetheart, why don't you give me your number?" "Sir, please let go." Monique kept her voice level, professional, even as his grip tightened. "Come on, baby. Don't be like that. I tip well." "Sir." A hand appeared on the man's shoulder. Long fingers, manicured nails, a grip that made the businessman wince. "She asked you to let go." Mr. Nam's voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of absolute authority. His bodyguards had materialized on either side, their presence suddenly menacing. The businessman released Monique's wrist immediately, stammering apologies. Mr. Nam didn't acknowledge them. His dark eyes were on Monique, and something flickered in their depths, something that looked almost like recognition. "Thank you," she managed. "That wasn't necessary, but thank you." It was necessary. He returned to his table without another word. When table 15 finally left 2 hours later, Monique found an envelope next to the paid bill. Inside was a business card, simple, black, with just a name and phone number, and 5 crisp $100 bills. The card read, "In Sung Nam," with a number beneath. On the back, written in precise handwriting, "When you're ready to stop crying, call me." Monique stood there, holding the card and the money that could pay for Zara's medication and the electric bill, her hands shaking. She didn't know who In Sung Nam was, but something told her that calling that number would change everything. Monique stared at the business card for 3 days. It sat on her bedside table in the tiny 2-bedroom apartment she shared with Zara, a small rectangle of expensive cardstock that seemed to pulse with possibility and danger in equal measure. "When you're ready to stop crying, call me." The presumption of it should have made her angry. This stranger, this obviously powerful, probably dangerous stranger, had looked at her for all of 2 hours and decided he knew something about her life, her struggles. The problem was, he did. "Mama!" Zara appeared in the doorway, her small frame wrapped in Minnie Mouse pajamas, her natural hair in 2 puffs on either side of her head. At 7, she already had her mother's expressive dark eyes and serious demeanor. "Are you okay?" Monique shoved the card into her nightstand drawer and pulled Zara onto the bed. "I'm perfect, baby girl. Why are you up?" "You were thinking really hard. I could hear it from my room." Zara cuddled against her mother's side, and Monique's heart clenched. This child, brilliant, perceptive, too wise for her age, had learned to read her mother's moods like other kids read picture books. "Just grown-up stuff, sweetheart. Nothing for you to worry about." "Is it about money again?" Monique's chest tightened. "Zara, I heard you on the phone with the hospital. About my medicine." Zara's voice was small. "I'm sorry I get sick, Mama." "Hey." Monique tilted her daughter's chin up, forcing her to meet her eyes. "Don't you ever apologize for that, ever, you hear me? Getting you healthy is my job, and I love my job. But you're sad all the time now." The simple observation hit harder than any accusation. Monique pulled Zara close, breathing in the coconut oil smell of her hair. "I'm not sad when I'm with you, never with you." After Zara fell asleep, Monique retrieved the card. $500 had helped. It had filled Zara's prescription, paid the electric bill, bought groceries. But it wasn't enough. It was never enough. The hospital wanted $3,000 for the emergency room visit last month. Her landlord was threatening eviction over 2 months' back rent. And Zara needed to see a specialist, a consultation that cost $500 before insurance. Insurance she'd lost when the restaurant cut her hours below full-time status. At 2 a.m., Monique picked up her phone. The call was answered on the first ring. Monique. Not a question. Somehow he'd known it would be her. "How did you—" She stopped. "Never mind. Mr. Nam, I don't know what you think you saw that night. I saw a woman working herself to death while pretending everything is fine." His voice was calm, matter-of-fact. "I saw tears you thought no one would notice. I saw strength and pride and desperation in equal measure." Monique's throat tightened. "That's quite an assessment from a 2-hour dinner service. I'm good at reading people. It's necessary in my line of work." And what is your line of work exactly? A pause. I manage investments and business operations in Chicago, among other things. The vagueness wasn't lost on her. Mr. Nam, In Sung, I can't accept money from strangers. I don't know what you want. I want to offer you a job. Monique's free hand gripped the edge of her nightstand. A job. Personal assistant. 6 months, initially. You'd organize my schedule, accompany me to business events, manage certain affairs that require discretion and competence. The work isn't difficult, but it requires someone trustworthy and intelligent. He paused. Someone who understands the value of discretion. I'm a waitress, not a secretary. You're a woman with a college degree working as a waitress because life happened. I saw your resume when I ran a background check. You... Anger flared, hot and bright. You ran a background check on me? I run background checks on everyone who interests me. Business administration degree from DePaul. Dean's list. Dropped out senior year when you got pregnant. No judgment in his tone, just facts. Father not in the picture. Mother passed away 3 years ago. No siblings, no support system. You're drowning, Monique, and you're too proud to ask for help. You don't know anything about me. But her voice lacked conviction. I know you cried in the restaurant bathroom an hour before my table was seated. I know your daughter has severe asthma. I know you work 60 hours a week and it's still not enough. His voice softened fractionally. I know that look in your eyes because I've seen it before. Desperation wearing a smile. Monique's vision blurred. What do you want from me? 6 months of your time. In exchange, I'll pay you $80,000. The number hit like a physical blow. Monique sat down hard on her bed, the phone shaking against her ear. That's enough to cover your debts, your daughter's medical expenses, and give you a financial cushion. In Sung continued, as if he hadn't just offered her a life raft in the middle of a storm. The work is legitimate. You'll have benefits, including health insurance that covers pre-existing conditions. Your hours will be flexible around your daughter's schedule. Why me? You could hire anyone. Because you have something most people in my world don't have. He paused. Integrity. You didn't pocket that $500 for yourself. You didn't quit your job immediately. You waited 3 days, running every possible angle, trying to figure out the catch. That tells me you're careful. Smart. Exactly what I need. There's always a catch. The catch is that my business sometimes requires discretion about the people I meet and the places I go. You'll see things, hear things. You'll need to be comfortable with ambiguity. Translation. He was involved in something illegal. Monique should hang up, thank him politely, and hang up. Instead, she heard herself ask, when would I start? Tomorrow. I'll send a car at 9 a.m. Bring your daughter. I have a playroom in my office building, secure, supervised, with a nurse on staff. She can stay there while you work. A playroom. With a nurse. Monique's hand pressed against her chest, trying to slow her racing heart. I need to think about it. You've been thinking about it for 3 days. You called me at 2 in the morning because you're out of options and out of time. His voice gentled slightly. I'm not offering charity, Monique. I need someone I can trust, and trust is rare in my world. This is a business arrangement. You provide competent service. I provide fair compensation. Fair. $80,000 for 6 months was far beyond fair. It was salvation. It was also too good to be true. 9 a.m., she whispered. 9 a.m., he confirmed. The car will be a black Mercedes. License plate INS 2195. Text me your address. He hung up before she could respond. Monique sat in her dark bedroom, staring at her phone, her mind racing. She should research him, Google his name, find out exactly what kind of man offered struggling single mothers life-changing amounts of money. But somewhere deep in her gut, she already knew. In Sung Nam was dangerous, powerful, connected to things that existed in shadows and whispers. And tomorrow morning, she was going to walk right into his world. For Zara. Always for Zara. The Mercedes arrived at exactly 9 a.m. Monique had barely slept. She'd dressed carefully. A simple black dress, professional but not too formal, her natural hair styled in a neat bun. Zara wore her favorite purple dress, bouncing with excitement at the prospect of a new adventure. Mama, is this because of the man with the serious face? Zara asked as they descended the stairs of their apartment building. Monique's stomach clenched. What man, baby? The one who stopped that mean man from grabbing you. I saw him when Auntie Keisha picked me up from the restaurant last week. Zara's observant eyes studied her mother. He looked at you like you were important. You're too smart for your own good. That's what Grandma always said. Zara's voice went soft. before she went to heaven. The driver opened the back door, a Korean man in his 40s, professional and silent. The interior of the Mercedes was leather and luxury, a world away from Monique's 15-year-old Honda with its broken air conditioning. Zara's eyes went wide. Wow. The drive to In Sung's building took 20 minutes through Chicago traffic. They pulled up to a sleek high-rise in River North, all glass and steel and modern architecture, the kind of building Monique had walked past 1,000 times without ever imagining she'd enter. Inside, the receptionist, a polished Korean woman in her 30s, smiled warmly. "Ms. Davis, Mr. Nam is expecting you, and this must be Zara." "Hi." Zara's natural friendliness emerged. "I like your dress." "Thank you, sweetheart. Would you like to see the playroom? We have the new frozen toys." Zara looked at Monique, suddenly uncertain. Monique crouched down, taking her daughter's small hands. "I'll be just upstairs, okay? If you need me, you tell Miss Jiwoo," the receptionist supplied. "And I'll come get you immediately." "Okay." Zara hugged her mother tight. "Love you, Mama. Love you more, baby girl." Watching Zara walk away with Jiwoo felt like leaving part of her heart behind, but the playroom was visible through glass windows, bright clean with 2 other children already playing, and a woman in scrubs reading nearby. "Ms. Davis!" A man had appeared, one of the bodyguards from the restaurant. "Mr. Nam will see you now." The elevator ride to the top floor was silent. When the doors opened, Monique stepped into a space that took her breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Chicago skyline. The office was massive, decorated in minimalist modern style. Clean lines, dark wood, expensive art that Monique suspected was original. Everything spoke of power, money, and impeccable taste. In Sung Nam stood at the windows, his back to her, wearing another perfectly tailored suit. At the sound of her entrance, he turned. In the restaurant, she'd thought him handsome in a cold, distant way. Here, in his element, he was something else entirely. Commanding, magnetic, the kind of presence that made everything else in the room fade into insignificance. "Monique." He gestured to a seat across from his desk. "Thank you for coming." She sat, back straight, meeting his gaze directly. "Let's be clear about something, Mr. Nam. I'm here for my daughter. Not because I believe in fairy tales or rescue fantasies. I need the money you're offering, and I'll earn every dollar, but I need to know exactly what I'm walking into." Something flickered in his eyes. Approval, maybe. "Direct? Good. I appreciate directness. So be direct with me. What exactly do you do?" In Sung sat behind his desk, steepling his fingers. "I run various business operations in Chicago. Restaurants, nightclubs, import-export companies, real estate holdings. All legitimate, all profitable. And the illegitimate operations..." His expression didn't change. "You're perceptive. I'm not stupid. Men who need discretion and have bodyguards aren't running regular businesses." "No," he agreed. "They're not." He leaned back in his chair, studying her. "I'm going to be honest with you, Monique, because I think you'll respect that more than comfortable lies. My family has certain connections to organizations in Korea. Here in Chicago, I manage operations that exist in gray areas of the law. Nothing that will endanger you or your daughter. Nothing violent or exploitative. But yes, there are aspects of my business that operate outside conventional channels." "You're in the Mafia." She said it flatly, without judgment. That's a crude term, but essentially accurate. Monique should have stood up, should have walked out, should have gone back to her struggling, exhausting, but legal life. Instead, she asked, "And my job?" "Exactly what I described. You'll manage my legitimate business affairs, schedule meetings, organize events, handle correspondence. You'll sometimes accompany me to dinners or functions where I need someone intelligent and presentable at my side. Think of yourself as the face of respectability for my legitimate operations. A cover, a bridge," he corrected, "between 2 worlds. You'll never be asked to do anything illegal. You'll never be put in danger. Those are non-negotiable terms. Why should I believe you? Because if I wanted something illegal or dangerous, I wouldn't hire a single mother with no experience in my world. I'd hire someone already compromised, already desperate in different ways." His gaze was steady, unwavering. "I need someone clean, Monique. Someone who can move through legitimate business circles without raising suspicion. Someone intelligent enough to handle complex situations and wise enough to know when to stay silent. Someone with too much to lose to betray you. Yes." He didn't flinch from the truth, "but also someone I can trust, and I find myself trusting you. You don't even know me. I know enough." In Sung pulled out a contract. sliding it across the desk. 6 months. $80,000 paid monthly. Health insurance starting today. Flexible hours. All terms clearly stated. Read it. Take it to a lawyer if you want. I'll pay for the consultation. Monique took the contract with shaking hands. It was detailed, professional, exactly as he'd described. Buried in the middle was a clause about confidentiality and non-disclosure. If I sign this and then change my mind, you pay back any money received and walk away. No retaliation, no consequences. He paused. But you won't change your mind. How do you know? Because you're like me. In Sung's voice was quiet, almost gentle. A survivor. You do what needs to be done, and right now what needs to be done is saving your daughter and yourself. The contract blurred in Monique's vision. He was right. God help her. He was right. One more question, she managed. Why did you notice me? In that restaurant with all those people, why did you see me crying? In Sung was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight she hadn't heard before. Because I know what it looks like when someone is drowning. I know that smile, that mask. I wore it myself once, a long time ago. What happened? I stopped drowning. His eyes met hers. And now I'm offering you the same chance. Monique picked up the pen. She signed her name, Monique Elizabeth Davis, and felt her entire world shift. In Sung stood, extending his hand. Welcome aboard, Miss Davis. His hand was warm, his grip firm. And as Monique shook it, sealing this impossible agreement, she had the sudden unsettling feeling that she'd just changed far more than her employment status. She'd just walked into the orbit of a man who saw too much, offered too little explanation, and radiated the kind of power that altered everything it touched. The question was, would she survive the experience? 3 weeks into working for In Sung Nam, Monique realized she'd been both wrong and right about him. Wrong. He wasn't just dangerous, he was lethal. The quiet, calculated way he handled problems, the instant obedience his presence commanded, the undercurrent of violence that followed him like a shadow. It was more than Mafia connections. In Sung Nam was a weapon wrapped in expensive suits. Right. He'd kept his word. Every single promise. Her first paycheck had been exactly as stated. Zara's health insurance had activated immediately. The work was demanding but never illegal. What Monique hadn't anticipated was how much time she'd actually spend with him. The Kim meeting is at 3, she reviewed, scrolling through her tablet as they sat in his office on a Wednesday afternoon. Dinner with the Southside restaurant investors at 7, and you have that thing at midnight. That thing was how they'd started referring to his less legitimate business. Monique didn't ask questions. In Sung didn't volunteer information. Cancel dinner, In Sung said, not looking up from the document he was reviewing. Reschedule for next week. Any particular reason? I'm taking you and Zara out instead. Monique's fingers froze over the tablet. Excuse me? In Sung finally looked up, his dark eyes unreadable. It's been 3 weeks. I haven't taken a single evening off. You work 60-hour weeks for me on top of the part-time shifts you're still pulling at the restaurant. I need the extra money. You don't. He set down his pen with deliberate precision. I'm paying you more than enough. You're running yourself into the ground out of habit and fear. So tonight, we're going to dinner. The 3 of us. Consider it a working meal if that makes you more comfortable. In Sung, 7 o'clock, casual dress. I know a place Zara will love. Before Monique could argue, his phone rang. He answered in rapid Korean, his voice dropping into that dangerous register she'd learned meant trouble. She'd picked up a few Korean words over the past weeks, enough to know this conversation involved money, territory, and someone who'd made a mistake. In Sung's face remained expressionless, but his free hand had curled into a fist on the desk. When he hung up, the temperature in the room felt several degrees colder. Problem? Monique asked carefully. Nothing that concerns you. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. I need to handle something. Ji-woo will drive you and Zara home. I'll pick you both up at 7. In Sung... He paused at the door, looking back at her. Something in his expression made her breath catch. A flicker of something raw beneath the ice. Tonight isn't about work, Monique. It's about balance. Trust me. Then he was gone, leaving her alone in his office with her racing thoughts. The restaurant In Sung chose was a small Korean BBQ place in the heart of Chicago's Koreatown, worlds away from the upscale establishments Monique had expected. It was family-owned, warm, filled with the sounds of sizzling meat and laughter. Zara was enchanted. Mama, look! The food cook's right at the table. She bounced in her seat, her natural enthusiasm on full display. In Sung smiled, actually smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his severe features into something almost boyish. Have you had Korean food before, Zara? Mama made kimchi once. It was spicy, but I liked it. Zara studied In Sung with her characteristic directness. Do you cook? Sometimes, when I have time. Mama says people who cook are people who care, because cooking for someone is like giving them a hug they can eat. Monique wanted to sink through the floor. Zara. But In Sung's eyes had softened, fixed on the little girl with something like wonder. Your mama is very wise. The meal unfolded in a way Monique hadn't anticipated. In Sung was patient with Zara, explaining dishes, helping her use chopsticks, telling her stories about growing up in Seoul before moving to America. Zara hung on his every word, asking 1,000 questions with her natural curiosity. Did you have a little girl? Zara asked suddenly, her child's intuition cutting straight to the heart of things. You're really good at this. In Sung went very still. When he spoke, his voice was quieter. I had a younger sister. She passed away when I was young. Like my grandma. Yes, like your grandma. Zara reached across the table with her small hand, patting In Sung's much larger one. I'm sorry, being sad about people is hard. Something cracked in Sung's carefully controlled expression. He looked at this 7-year-old child like she'd just offered him something precious and unexpected. Thank you, Zara. You're a very kind person. Mama says kindness is free but worth $1 million. Your mama, In Sung said, his eyes finding Monique's across the table, says a lot of smart things. The moment stretched between them, charged, intimate, dangerous. Monique felt her heart stutter against her ribs. This wasn't just dinner. This was In Sung letting them see behind his walls, and the vulnerability there was more devastating than any of his cold power. After dinner, they walked through a small park nearby. Zara ran ahead, chasing fireflies in the warm evening air, and In Sung fell into step beside Monique. Your daughter is remarkable, he said quietly. She's everything. Monique watched Zara spin with her arms outstretched. Every choice I make is for her, including working for me. Especially that. She glanced at him. You're different with her, gentler. Children have a way of seeing through pretense. They respond to authenticity. In Sung's hands were in his pockets, his profile sharp against the twilight. She reminds me of my sister, that open heart, that natural empathy. The world hadn't hardened her yet. How old was she when she died? 10. Leukemia. His jaw tightened. I was 17, old enough to feel responsible, too young to do anything about it. Monique's hand found his arm, without conscious thought. I'm sorry. In Sung looked down at her hand on his sleeve, the first time she'd voluntarily touched him. Something flickered in his dark eyes. That's why I noticed you, he said. In the restaurant, you had that same look my mother had during my sister's illness, that exhausted determination, that smile that costs everything. His voice dropped. I couldn't help my sister. The money came too late. The connections came too late. Everything came too late. But I could help you. Monique's throat tightened. So this isn't really about needing an assistant. I do need an assistant. That part is true. He turned to face her fully and they were suddenly very close. But I also needed to help someone who reminded me what it feels like to care, to see someone suffering and not just walk away like everyone walked away from my family. In Sung, I know this arrangement seems strange, suspicious, too good to be true. His hand came up, hovering near her cheek, but not quite touching. But I promise you, Monique, my intentions are exactly what I stated. Give you security. Give your daughter the care she needs, and maybe... He trailed off. Maybe what? Maybe remember what it feels like to be human instead of just a weapon. The raw honesty in his voice stole Monique's breath. This man, this powerful, dangerous, controlled man, was confessing to his own brokenness. Mama, Mr. Nam, look! Zara had captured a firefly, its light blinking between her cupped hands. In Sung's expression shifted back to that gentle smile as he approached Zara, crouching to her level. Beautiful. Make a wish before you let it go. What should I wish for? Whatever your heart wants most. Zara looked between In Sung and Monique, something wise and knowing in her young face. Then she closed her eyes, whispered something, and released the firefly into the night. What did you wish? Monique asked. Can't tell, or it won't come true. Zara grinned. But I think it might come true anyway. Later, after In Sung drove them home in his sleek black car, making Zara giggle by letting her choose the music, Monique tucked her daughter into bed. "I like Mr. Nam," Zara announced. "He's sad inside, but he tries to be good. That makes him special." "What makes you say he's sad?" "His eyes. They're like yours when you look at Grandma's picture. Missing someone." Zara yawned. "But he smiled real smiles tonight. With us. I think we make him less sad." After Zara fell asleep, Monique stood in her living room looking at the business card that had started everything. It sat now in a frame on her bookshelf, a reminder of the moment her life had changed. Her phone buzzed. A text from In Sung. "Thank you for tonight. I haven't felt this human in years. IN." Monique stared at the message, her heart doing complicated things in her chest. This was getting dangerous in an entirely different way than she'd anticipated. She wasn't afraid of In Sung's criminal connections. She was afraid of how easily he was slipping past her own carefully constructed walls. She typed back, "Thank you for seeing us. Really seeing us." Hush. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. "I see you, Monique. Perhaps too clearly. That might be a problem. Why? Because seeing you makes me want things I shouldn't want, and wanting things makes you vulnerable. In my world, vulnerability is fatal." Monique should have left it there. Should have set professional boundaries. Should have remembered this was a business arrangement. Instead, she wrote, "Maybe some things are worth the risk." His response took 5 minutes. "Maybe you're right. Sleep well, Monique. Dream of fireflies and possibilities." Monique sat down on her couch, phone clutched in her hand, her mind racing. 3 weeks ago, In Sung Nam had been a stranger who noticed her tears. Now he was a complicated, vulnerable, dangerous man who'd looked at her daughter with genuine affection and confessed his own brokenness. Now he was someone who sent her messages about vulnerability and wanting things. Now he was someone who made her heart race and her carefully planned life feel suddenly small. And Monique had absolutely no idea what to do about that. The unraveling started with a photograph. Monique had been working for In Sung for 6 weeks when Jiwoo handed her a manila envelope marked confidential. Inside was a series of surveillance photos. In Sung meeting with men Monique didn't recognize, outside buildings she'd never visited, in situations that clearly had nothing to do with his legitimate businesses. "What am I supposed to do with these?" Monique asked carefully. Jiwoo's expression was sympathetic. "Destroy them." They arrived at the office this morning with a note. "Tell your new assistant who she's really working for." Monique's blood ran cold. Someone's watching. Someone's always watching, in Mr. Nam's world. Jiwoo hesitated. "He asked me to give you the rest of the day off, to think about whether you want to continue this arrangement. He's giving me an out. He's protecting you, like he always does." Monique took the envelope home, her mind churning. She should feel betrayed, manipulated. Instead, she felt something else entirely. Protective. Because those photos showed a man doing what he had to do in a world with different rules. They didn't show the man who'd crouched down to Zara's level to talk about fireflies. They didn't show the man who'd confessed his own wounds. Her phone rang. Unknown number. "Ms. Davis." The voice was male, Korean accented, cold. "I trust you received our gift." "Who is this?" "Someone interested in your employer's welfare, and yours." A pause. "Mr. Nam has enemies, powerful ones. You and your daughter make convenient pressure points." Monique's hand tightened on the phone. "Are you threatening my child? I'm warning you. Walk away before you get caught in the crossfire. In Sung Nam destroys everything he touches. Ask his sister." The line went dead. Monique stood frozen in her apartment, rage and fear warring in her chest. Then she was moving, calling In Sung's private number, the one he'd given her for emergencies. He answered immediately. "Monique, who the hell was that? Someone just called me, mentioned Zara, told me to walk away. Where are you?" His voice had gone deadly calm. "Home. Zara's at school. In Sung. What's happening?" "Stay there. Lock your doors. I'm sending Marcus and June. They'll be there in 5 minutes. Don't let anyone else in." "In Sung. I'll explain everything, I promise. But right now, I need you safe." 20 minutes later, Monique's door opened. After she'd verified it was indeed Marcus and Jun, In Sung's most trusted bodyguards. They positioned themselves at her apartment entrance, silent and professional. In Sung arrived 10 minutes after that. He looked different, not the controlled businessman she'd come to know, but something wilder. His suit jacket was gone, his shirt sleeves rolled up, his hair slightly mussed. His eyes blazed with an intensity that made Monique's breath catch. "Are you hurt?" First question even before he was fully through the door. No, angry and scared, but not hurt. In Sung's jaw clenched. I need you to tell me exactly what was said. Monique recounted the conversation word for word. With each sentence, In Sung's expression grew darker, more dangerous. This was the man his enemies feared. Cold, calculating, lethal. The photos? He asked. She handed him the envelope. He barely glanced at them. Lee Dong-woo, rival organization out of New York. He's been moving into Chicago territory for months. This is an escalation. He threatened Zara, which was a mistake. In Sung's voice was quiet, controlled, and absolutely terrifying. No one threatens children. There are rules, even in this world. What are you going to do? What I should have done weeks ago. End this. He looked at her then, and something in his expression shifted. But first, I need to tell you the truth. All of it. You deserve that. They sat in her small living room, so different from his luxurious office, and In Sung told her everything. His family's history in Korea's organized crime networks, his own path into this life, driven by desperation to pay for his sister's treatment, the years of building power, respect and fear, the enemies made along the way, the impossible line he walked between legitimate business and the underworld. I told myself I was helping you, he said quietly, that this was about redemption, about saving someone when I couldn't save my sister, but that wasn't the whole truth. What was the whole truth? In Sung met her eyes. The moment I saw you, really saw you, tears in your eyes, strength in your spine, I wanted to know you, not as an employee, not as a person to save, as someone who made me feel things I'd buried for years. His voice roughened. I wanted you in my life, Monique. This was the only way I knew how to make that happen. Monique's heart hammered. So this job is real. Everything I promised is real. But my motivations... He ran a hand through his hair, a rare show of uncertainty. I'm not a good man, Monique. I've done things that would horrify you. I've hurt people, destroyed lives. I operate in shadows and moral grey areas. But with you and Zara, I feel like maybe there's still something human left in me. Why are you telling me this now? Because Lee Dong-woo made this personal. Because you and Zara are in danger because of me. Because you deserve the choice I never gave you initially. The choice to walk away knowing everything. Monique was quiet for a long moment, processing. She should be furious, should feel manipulated, should grab Zara and run as far as possible from this dangerous, complicated man. Instead, she heard herself ask, Your sister, how did she really die? In Sung flinched, like she'd struck him. What? That man on the phone. He said to ask about your sister, like there was more to the story. The pain that crossed In Sung's face was raw, devastating. She didn't just die from leukemia. We couldn't afford the best treatment, so I borrowed money from the wrong people. When I couldn't pay it back fast enough, his voice broke. They withdrew her from the hospital as incentive. She died 3 days later in our apartment. I was holding her hand. Oh God, In Sung, I killed the men responsible. Every single one of them. It was my first real act as part of the organization. Proved my loyalty in blood. His eyes were haunted. I told myself I was avenging her. But really, I was just becoming what they'd made me, a weapon, a monster. Monique moved before she could stop herself, crossing the small space between them, her hands cupping his face. You're not a monster. Monsters don't notice waitresses crying. Monsters don't play with 7-year-olds and make them laugh. Monsters don't confess their wounds. You don't know what I've done. I know who you are. Right now, in this moment, I see you, In Sung, just like you saw me. She leaned her forehead against his. And I'm not walking away. You should. But his hands had come up to grip her waist, holding her close. Lee Dong-woo won't stop. This will get worse before it gets better. Then make it better. It will require me to do things. Dark things. I'm not asking you to be a saint. I'm asking you to keep us safe. Monique pulled back slightly, meeting his intense gaze. You want to know what I see in you. I see a man who's been fighting his whole life. Fighting for survival, for power, for control. But with us, you don't have to fight. With us, you can just be. In Sung's thumb traced her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. You terrify me, Monique Davis. You make me want impossible things, normal things, a life that doesn't fit who I am. Maybe it's time to redefine who you are. Maybe. His eyes dropped to her lips and the air between them charged with electricity. But first, I need to eliminate the threat. Lee Dong-woo and his organization need to understand that you and Zara are untouchable. How? A ghost of his cold smile returned. by reminding Chicago why they fear the name In Sung Nam. The doorbell rang. They both tensed, but Marcus's voice called out, "School's out. Mrs. Zara's home." Zara burst through the door moments later, her backpack bouncing, her face lighting up when she saw In Sung. "Mr. Nam, are you here for dinner? Mama's making her special mac and cheese." In Sung's entire demeanor shifted, the dangerous edge softening into genuine warmth. "I'd be honored if your mama says it's okay." "It's okay," Monique confirmed, her heart doing complicated things at watching this lethal man gentle himself for her daughter. Over dinner, Monique's admittedly excellent mac and cheese, Zara chatted about her school day while In Sung listened with complete attention. Marcus and June had positioned themselves outside, invisible but present. "Mr. Nam," Zara asked suddenly, "are you Mama's boyfriend?" Monique choked on her water. "Zara, what? You smile different when he's around, and he looks at you like Prince Naveen looks at Tiana." Zara's matter-of-fact tone made In Sung's lips twitch. "Are you?" In Sung looked at Monique, something heated and honest in his gaze. "Would you like me to be? I'm 7, not stupid. You'd be good for Mama. You make her less tired." Zara took another bite of mac and cheese. "Plus, you're really cool and kind of scary, but in a good way." "Zara Elizabeth Davis." "It's fine," In Sung assured Monique, though his eyes danced with rare humor. "She's not wrong. I am kind of scary." "In a good way," Zara insisted. After dinner, after Zara was tucked in with yet another story from In Sung about his childhood in Seoul, Monique walked him to the door. "Thank you," she said softly, "for being honest, for being gentle with her, for everything. Thank you for not running." In Sung's hand cupped her cheek, his thumb brushing over her lips, "for seeing past what I am to who I'm trying to be." "In Sung," he kissed her. It was gentle at first, almost questioning. Then Monique's hands fisted in his shirt, and she kissed him back, and gentle transformed into something desperate, consuming. Years of loneliness, exhaustion, and fear poured out of her. Decades of control, isolation, and violence poured out of him. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, In Sung rested his forehead against hers. "I need to go handle Lee Dongwoo, but when I come back—" He paused. "When I come back, we need to talk about what this is, what we are. Be safe. Always." He kissed her again, softer this time. "Marcus and June will stay. No one will get near you or Zara." "In Sung?" She caught his hand. "Come back to me. To us." Something fierce and possessive flashed in his eyes. "Nothing could keep me away." After he left, Monique leaned against her closed door, her lips still tingling, her heart racing. She'd fallen for him, completely, irrevocably fallen for this dangerous, wounded, impossible man, and somehow, that felt exactly right. The warehouse smelled of rust, blood, and fear. In Sung stood in the center of it, his perfectly tailored suit somehow still pristine despite the violence of the past hour. Lee Dongwoo knelt before him, held in place by In Sung's men, his face already swelling from interrogation. "You threatened a child," In Sung said, his voice quiet, deadly. "My child." "She's not," Lee Dongwoo started. In Sung's fist connected with his jaw, and the man's head snapped back. "She is. They both are. And you made the fatal mistake of thinking that gave you leverage. The Korean community, they'll never—" "The community already knows. I made sure of it." In Sung crouched to Lee Dongwoo's level, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried more menace than shouting. "You violated our oldest rule. No children, no families. You brought dishonor to your organization and destruction to your operations. The elders have already disavowed you." Lee Dongwoo's eyes widened in genuine fear. "How you can't—" "I already did. Your territory has been absorbed. Your men have scattered or sworn loyalty to me. Your suppliers have found new partners. In the span of 6 hours, I've dismantled everything you built." In Sung stood, straightening his cuffs. "You made me choose between mercy and protecting what's mine. That's not a choice. That's just mathematics. What are you going to do?" In Sung looked at Marcus, who stepped forward with a phone. On the screen was footage of federal agents raiding warehouses, arresting men in Lee Dongwoo's organization. "I'm not going to kill you," In Sung said. "Death is too easy. Instead, you're going to spend the next 20 years in federal prison. I've provided authorities with documentation of your entire operation. Trafficking, racketeering, murder, everything. You'll live, but you'll live with the knowledge that you failed, that you lost everything, that you're finished." "You're dead," Lee Dongwoo lunged, but Marcus and Jun held him fast. The moment you show weakness, the moment that woman and her brat distract you. In Sung moved with frightening speed, his hand closing around Lee Dongwoo's throat. Listen very carefully. That woman, Monique, is under my protection. Her daughter Zara is under my protection. They are mine, and anyone who touches what's mine doesn't just die. They disappear. Their families disappear. Their legacy disappears. Do you understand? Lee Dongwoo could only gurgle. In Sung released him, nodding to his men. Federal agents will be here in 10 minutes. Make sure he's ready for them. As In Sung walked out of the warehouse, adjusting his tie, Marcus fell into step beside him. It's done, boss. Lee's organization is finished. The territories are secure. The message is clear. Good. In Sung paused at his car, looking back at the warehouse. No more half measures, Marcus. Anyone who even looks at Monique or Zara wrong, I want to know immediately. Understood. Marcus hesitated. Sir, if I may, she's changed you. In a good way. In Sung's expression softened fractionally. She's reminded me why I started this. Not for power or money, to protect the people I love. He got in the car. Take me to her. Monique woke to the sound of her bedroom door opening. She sat bolt upright, reaching for the baseball bat she'd started keeping beside her bed, but it was In Sung, silhouetted in her doorway, looking exhausted and somehow vulnerable. It's done, he said quietly. Lee Dongwoo is in federal custody. His organization is dismantled. The threat is neutralized. Monique climbed out of bed, crossing to him. In the dim light from the hallway, she could see blood on his knuckles, shadows under his eyes. Are you hurt? No, just tired. He looked at her standing there in her simple pajamas, no makeup, hair wrapped in a silk scarf, and something in his expression cracked. I've done terrible things tonight, Monique. Things I can never take back. Did you do them to keep us safe? Yes. Then come here. She pulled him into her small bedroom, closing the door. Then she took his hands, those dangerous, violent hands, and led him to her bed. Sit. He obeyed, and she disappeared into her bathroom, returning with a first aid kit. Gently, she cleaned the blood from his knuckles, tended to his split skin, wrapped his hands in soft gauze. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. I want to. Monique looked up at him. You've spent tonight protecting us. Let me take care of you. Something shifted in Sung's eyes. Vulnerability, need, longing. I don't deserve your gentleness. That's not your choice to make. She finished bandaging his hands, then cupped his face. In Sung, I'm not naive. I know what you are, what you do, but I also know who you are with us, with me and Zara, and that's the man I choose to see. Monique, she kissed him, pouring everything she felt into it. Acceptance, desire, understanding. In Sung responded immediately, his bandaged hands careful on her waist, pulling her between his legs. I love you, she whispered against his lips. I know it's fast and complicated, and probably insane, but I love you. In Sung went very still. Say it again. I love you. Monique, his voice broke. No one's ever. I know. She understood what he couldn't say. No one had loved him since his sister died. No one had seen past the weapon to the wounded man underneath. I love you, he said, the words rough, unpracticed. I've loved you since that first night, watching you smile through tears, showing strength you shouldn't have to show. You're everything I didn't know I needed, everything I thought I didn't deserve. They kissed again, slower this time, savoring. When they finally pulled apart, In Sung rested his forehead against hers. What happens now? Monique asked. Now we figure out how to make this work. My world, your world. We find a way to blend them. He pulled back slightly, his dark eyes intense. I won't ask you to marry me yet. You need time to be sure this is what you want. But Monique, you and Zara, you're mine. I'm claiming you, protecting you, loving you. If you'll have me. Yes. No hesitation. Yes, we'll have you. A sound from the doorway made them both turn. Zara stood there, rubbing her eyes, her Minnie Mouse pajamas rumpled. Is everything okay? She asked sleepily. I heard talking. In Sung and Monique exchanged glances. Then In Sung held out his hand to Zara. Everything's okay, little one. In fact, everything's perfect. Come here. Zara padded over, and In Sung lifted her onto the bed between them. She immediately cuddled against her mother, but took In Sung's bandaged hand in her small one. Did you get hurt protecting us? She asked. Something like that. Thank you. Zara yawned. Are you Mama's boyfriend now? Monique laughed softly. Yes, baby. He is. Good. Zara's eyes were already closing. I wished for this. With the firefly, I wished for Mama to be happy, and for us to have a family again. In-sung's eyes met Monique's over Zara's head, and the emotion there took her breath away. Love, wonder, gratitude. Your wish came true, he whispered. They stayed like that, the three of them in Monique's small bed, until Zara fell asleep. Then In-sung carefully carried her back to her own room, tucking her in with the practiced gentleness of someone who'd once done this for a sister he loved. Back in Monique's room, they lay together, fully clothed, just holding each other. I never thought I'd have this, In-sung murmured against her hair. Family, love, someone who sees all of me and doesn't turn away. I never thought I'd trust someone enough to let them in, Monique responded. To let them help. To let them love my daughter. Our daughter. The words were soft but firm. If you'll let me be that for her. I know I can't replace her father. Her father left. Chose not to be here. You chose to stay. To protect. To love. Monique tilted her face up to his. You're already more of a father than he ever was. In-sung kissed her, soft, reverent, grateful. I promise you, Monique, both of you, I'll spend the rest of my life earning this, protecting you, loving you, building a life where you never have to cry alone again. And I promise you, you'll never be the Ice King with us. You'll just be In-sung, the man who noticed, the man who cared, the man we love. Outside, Chicago continued its endless rhythm. Marcus and Jun stood silent guard. The underworld shifted and reconfigured around In-sung's new priorities, but inside this small apartment, in this bed, 3 hearts beat in synchronization, a family forged not by blood, but by choice, protection, and love that transcended every barrier between their worlds. She smiled while serving everyone, In-sung whispered, quoting the words that had started everything, until the Korean Mafia boss noticed her eyes were full of tears. And then? Monique prompted, knowing he was rewriting their story. And then he realized those tears were his to dry. That smile was his to make genuine. That woman and her beautiful daughter were his to cherish. He pulled her closer. Forever. Forever, Monique agreed. And in the morning, when Zara burst into the room and found In-sung still there, making pancakes in their tiny kitchen, his suit jacket draped over a chair, his sleeves rolled up, looking more human and happy than Monique had ever seen him, the little girl's delighted squeal said everything. Their impossible love story had found its beginning, and this was only the start. Years had woven their lives together in ways none of them could have imagined that first night in the restaurant. The penthouse apartment overlooked Lake Michigan, morning sun streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. It was Christmas morning, and the space was filled with the warm chaos of family. Zara, now 13 and already showing signs of her mother's grace and strength, sat cross-legged on the floor, helping her little brother Min-jae open presents. The 5-year-old boy, with his father's dark eyes and his mother's warm skin tone, squealed with delight at each new toy. Careful, Min-jae, Zara laughed. You're making a mess. He gets that from his appa, Monique called from the kitchen, where she was preparing their traditional Christmas breakfast, a fusion of her southern comfort food and In-sung's Korean favorites. In-sung emerged from his home office, having just finished a call. At 42, he'd aged gracefully, a few grey hairs at his temples, laugh lines around his eyes that hadn't been there years ago. He'd stepped back from the most dangerous aspects of his business, focusing on legitimate operations, though his reputation still carried weight in both worlds. Appa! Min-jae launched himself at his father, who caught him easily, spinning him around. Aish, you're getting too big for this, In-sung teased, but his eyes were soft with love. Monique watched from the kitchen, her heart full. She'd finished her business degree online, now co-managing In-sung's legitimate operations. Her perspective, understanding both struggle and privilege, had proven invaluable. Together they'd built something beautiful. Mama, Zara approached, suddenly serious. Can I ask you something? Always, baby girl. Do you ever regret it? That night you called him, how everything changed. Monique looked at her daughter, this brilliant, compassionate young woman who'd witnessed their unconventional love story. Not for a single second. Best decision I ever made. Even though it was scary, even though his world was so different. Especially because of that. Monique pulled Zara close. Your father taught me that love isn't about perfect circumstances. It's about choosing each other, every day, despite the complications. He saw me when I was invisible. He loved us when we needed it most. And in return, we gave him something he'd lost. Family. I wished for this, Zara said softly, with that firefly. Remember. I remember. Best wish I ever made. In-sung appeared beside them, Minjai now on his shoulders. What are my beautiful girls talking about? How lucky we are, Monique said, rising on her toes to kiss him. No. In-sung's voice was firm but gentle. How lucky I am. You and Zara. You saved me. Gave me a reason to be more than what my past made me. Showed me that power isn't about fear. It's about protection, love, and building something worth protecting. Yobo. Monique used the Korean term of endearment he'd taught her. You're getting sentimental in your old age. Only with you. Always with you. Later, after breakfast, after presents, after Minjai had fallen asleep on the couch and Zara was FaceTiming with friends, In-sung and Monique stood on their balcony, watching snow fall over Chicago. Do you remember that first night? In-sung asked, his arm around her waist. In the restaurant. How could I forget? You scared me to death. I terrified myself. I never acted so impulsively. Never broken my own rules about getting involved. He turned her to face him. But something about you, those tears you tried to hide, that strength you wore like armor, I couldn't look away. I'm glad you didn't. Monique Davis Nam, he said her full married name with satisfaction, you changed my entire world. Taught me what it means to live instead of just survive. Gave me a family I thought I'd never have again. We changed each other, Monique corrected. You taught me to accept help, to trust, to believe I deserved more than just survival. You loved my daughter like your own. You built this beautiful life for us. For us, he agreed. Always for us. They kissed as snow fell around them. Two people from different worlds who'd found in each other exactly what they'd been missing. Understanding, acceptance, passionate love that transcended every barrier. Inside, Zara took a photo through the window. Her mother and In-sung silhouetted against the Chicago skyline, holding each other like they'd never let go. She posted it with a caption, Mom smiled while serving everyone, until the Korean Mafia boss noticed her eyes were full of tears. Best love story ever. Family is everything, because their story wasn't just about rescue or redemption. It was about seeing and being seen, about choosing love despite fear, about building bridges between different worlds and finding that, in the end, love speaks every language and understands every struggle. Monique had started with tears and a desperate smile. In-sung had started with cold isolation and controlled power. Together they'd built warmth, laughter, and a family that proved love could conquer even the darkest circumstances. And every day In-sung still noticed when Monique was tired, stressed, or overwhelmed. Every day he still found ways to dry tears she no longer had to hide, because the man who'd once noticed her crying had made it his life's mission to give her every reason to smile. And that was a love story worth telling.